So let's have this topic name is chemistry in everyday life. That is the substances which are naturally chemical substances but used in the everyday life, means people use commonly as a medicines, paints and different types of the applications. So in the first application we have taken chemicals in medicines, that is drugs are the life saving medicines. So many belongs to the organic molecules, and these molecules are now divided into this type of the medicines are divided into two types. That is, first category, let us take the analgesics. These are reducing the pain, that is whenever you have a stomach ache or a headache or so on, any pain, you use instantly some chemical that reduces the pain, keeping the removing the actual cause, but temporarily we get a relief from the pain. These medicines act as in fact they create a false membrane between or a wall between the somatic system and the brain, so that the impulse from that is pain impulse is not reached to the brain. So therefore pain will be there but we don't feel it in fact. So such type of the medicines are now called as analgesics. They can be shortly defined as they reduce the pain or painkillers. They are again classified into two types, that is non-narcotic and narcotic. We might have already heard this. Narcotic means they reduce the pain but they are habit making. Most of the drugs from the opium products, marijuana products, morphine, codeine, heroin, pethidine, these are alkaloids actually, the complex structures will be there. They also reduce the pain but they give the addictive, that means if I take today, tomorrow also I want to take. So if I take tomorrow, then next day I want to take little more also, in fact like that people will become a habituated to take this, and they adversely react on the central nervous system. So naturally they are not recommended, but unfortunately in some operations and all that it is necessary to stop that pain, this one. So therefore we use, even the doctors use in the operations such type of post operation immediately the lot of pain will be there, to reduce that these type of the drugs may be used. But in general, as a headache or stomach ache, generally we go for this non-narcotic type of the drugs. They are safe, they don't have this type of the addictive type, and this addictive drugs, narcotics also generally we call drugs. The boy is using drugs or drug addicted means narcotic one. So these are also, on the whole, all medicines are called drugs, but the limited meaning drug is used for the narcotic type of the medicines. Now narcotic means mostly the benzoic acid and salicylic acid, sodium salts of the salicylic acid, acetylated salicylic acid. This is acetyl salicylic acid is called aspirin actually, phenylated and so on. So many derivatives of the aspirin works as a very good the anti, that is analgesic. Analgesic means pain relieving. You do have some drugs like analgin, novalgin, brufen and so on, they are also acting. Aspirin has another benefit also, it is acting as antipyretic. Pyro means temperature, antipyretic means temperature controlling quality is also there for this one. Similarly, anticoagulating means blood when exposed to the air, it coagulates. So this stops that for some extent. In the heart patients, this coagulation is not recommended quickly, so therefore this has got this quality also. In addition to the pain releasing, that is analgesic property, it too has other two benefits. In fact, a person is having temperature as well as pain, can be recommended this type of the drugs, that is aspirin type of the drugs. So we have now analgesic means pain reducing. In that two categories are there, non-narcotic and narcotic. The narcotic drugs are very serious if a person is injured or post-operation. Immediate this type of the drugs will be given. And if it is a low level pain, then aspirin type of the pains, that is non-narcotic or normal type of the safe drugs, or the aspirin type of the drugs will be used. So let us take the second varieties of this medicines. These are called tranquilizers. The tranquilizers reduce the anxiety and the stress. What is exactly the anxiety means? The central nervous system will have a level of working, and if it works more, in fact, rather than the required one, people get anxiety. If it is not working, we feel giddy or the sleepy, isn't it? So if it is working more than what? For example, if you go to exam, you have to think about the exam, not the result. So ahead, if thinking starts, the unnecessary thinking gives all this stress and the anxiety. That's nothing but the anxiety or stress. Now these drugs will low down the working capacity or the working mode of the central nervous system. Thereby people get stress free. So this type of drugs are again divided into the three types. Antidepressant means people whenever, because of the depression, then people more thinking will go to a level that I can't do anything. Such a level can be improved by adding this type of the using this type of the drugs. This is the first level, antidepressant drugs. The tension relievers are the mild type, and this is little stronger type. Both are, these are tension relieving, means again stress management type of the drugs. In this, this heterocyclic rings containing the chlordiazepoxide as well as meprobamate and equanyl. These are the esters containing the amides, the other side function. And this type of the drugs can be used as a tension relieving in a mild dose. There are another third type of the class of the drugs. They are derived from the one side, you see this is urea, the other side is malonic acid. This malonic acid and urea condensed gives a common this molecule called barbituric acid. So the derivatives of this barbituric acid in the case of this R1, R2, the groups go on change. So the changed groups may have this slightly different effect on the nervous system. So therefore, based on that, we have a group of medicines which are called barbituric acid derivatives. Now the first derivative is diethyl. In the case of this R1, R2, if two ethyls are there, this is called veronal. If two phenyls are there, that is called luminol. There are some more drugs like seconal, Valium, serotonin and so on. They also belong to this type of the drugs, which are little strong effect, and however they control all this anxiety and the stress. So this type of the drugs, whenever a person takes, the central nervous system acting little more will become slightly slow down, and then all these problems will be controlled. So they are called tranquilizers, specifically sedative and hypnotic. If much more is controlled, that is central nervous system is paralyzed for some extent, then a state comes and that is anesthetic, then a coma, or then the last lethal stages. Sedative is the lowest level of managing the central nervous system. This is without sleep, the anxiety will be controlled. Hypnotic means with the sleep, the anxiety is controlled. So people get sleep means the central nervous system working will decreases and people will get sleep for some time. You will get relieved from all these problems. So these are the main three types of drugs come under this tranquilizers. So there are two more types of the drugs specifically called antiseptics and disinfectants. Both kill the microorganism like bacteria, virus, small fungal and all that, which infect on the human body and so on, gives the problems. But the major difference between these two, both kill the microorganism, but the first one is harmless to the human body. So if you use this one, human body is not that is not harmful to the human body. So, therefore, they can be safely used in any part of the human body, like ferrocin, soframycin. Some of the medicines you can use even in the eye also. So, they are very not problematic to the human body. That is why these medicines can be directly used wherever it's a cut, directly cut comes also you can use to stop the bacterial growth and that. So, this is the bethoniol, a sulfur containing two sides, phenolic groups and the chlorinated. It is observed that the phenolic functions and the chlorines, sulfur, all are the poisonous to the some extent. So, therefore, they are all in the form of a compound, they act as the microorganism killing agents. Dettol is a mixture of the benzene with OH is called phenol, but two methyls are there, this is called xylene. So, it is called chloroxylenol, xylene plus OH, xylenol with a chlorinated xylenol. The other one, another natural product, that is terpineol. It is an extract of abatic plants and all that, which is also a natural product, but these two mixture is available in the form of the Dettol, that is wherever if a fresh cut is there, a dog bite or any snake bite, first we clean with the Dettol. Dettol contains this chloroxylenol and the terpineol. These two kill the microorganism. However, they are harmless to the human body. And there are another type of that is even the salol, 2% phenol, iodoform, boric acid, tincture iodine. These are all this first class of the medicines. But in the second class, disinfectants, they kill the microorganism and harmful to the human body. That means our human cells also, if little concentration is more, they also will be going to be affected adversely. So, they must be used very carefully. 1% phenol, very dilute solution, 0.2 to 0.4 ppm chlorine in water. The chlorine gas is generated by taking the calcium oxychloride, that is bleaching powder. When you add it to water, it generates the chlorine. This chlorine reacting with water gives HOCl, which decomposes to nascent oxygen. This nascent oxygen will attack on the bacteria and the virus. So, therefore, that kills the microbe, that is all microorganism. But if the slight level, if it is increased, it is very dangerous to the human body also. That is why this come under the disinfectant. Sulfur dioxide at low concentrations, DDT, BHC, benzene hexachloride, cresols and the picric acid, quite a number of organic compounds which are slightly poisonous to the human body, can be used for the disinfectants, especially cleaning the scissors or the knives and all that. These solutions work excellently, because when apart from the human body direct contact, if I am using this disinfectant, that is nothing to do with the human body. So, these solutions can be used that purpose, as well as you can also use on the human body, but carefully you must be used. Very dilute solutions you must use, because they adversely influence on the human cell. Therefore, care must be taken. But the first type is harmless to the human body, therefore, direct cuts can be used also, this type of the medicine. So, both kill the microorganism, third and the fourth types of the medicines. This is fifth type, is another type of the medicines, antimicrobials. These kill or inhibit the growth of the pathogens, means disease causing the bacteria, virus, fungal and so on, small the organisms. Antibiotic, under this there are specific varieties called antibiotic medicines. These antibiotics under this salvarsan, that is arsenic containing the medicine, very poisonous element it is, that is coupled with the two sides with phenolic amino functions, and the diazo function containing sulfonamide. This is also very popular. It is actually a azo dye, actually a color agent. prontosil rubrum, it was actually dye, worked excellently on the infections and all that. Later identified it's not the actually that compound, but this the SO2 NH2 function which is there in the compound is responsible. So a sulfanilamide is generated, and this is a simple one, that is a benzene with sulfonic acid with amino sulfonamide with a amino function. So this is sulfanilamide, and their derivatives like sulfa thiazole, thio with nitrogen, thiazole, that is sulfa thiazole, commonly known as sebazole. Ciba company introduced it. However, it is now outdated. L-cosin sebazole was one time it was actually the ruled the different the medicines and all that. So in that also specifically there are two specific categories are there. Bactericidal means bacteria will be killed literally. Bacteriostatic means bacteria growth will be stopped. Not actually they will kill, but the growth will be stopped means as they become old and they will die and they cannot generate or reproduce, therefore not immediately but after some time the disease will be cured. So there are two types of the antimicrobials later divided into two classes. The bactericidal come under the penicillin. This is called penicillin. Penicillin is a micro, that is a fungal derivative. It is actually from the fungus it is extracted, and their corresponding the alkyl, that is a series of penicillins as the R group goes on changes, you have a benzyl penicillins and so on. The other side we have a chloramphenicol, erythromycin, tetracyclines, terramycin and so on. They are all bacteriostatic, means they inhibit the growth or the that is genesis, that is reproduction part of the bacteria will be stopped. So therefore growth will be not there, just they will not be killed, but soon after some time the disease will be cured because it cannot be propagated. So these both will be controlling the excellently the diseases, but they have a slight difference in the mode of action. So the penicillins and the tetracyclines are still under the usage, but the sulfanilamide drugs, they are not now recommended because the sulfur has got some adverse effects on the skin problems and all that. But the penicillins and the tetracyclines are the used still latest drugs. So under the sixth variety of the medicines, anti-fertility drugs, they suppress the ovulation, they control the production of the ovum, therefore the fertilization will be inhibited. There is a natural the hormone, that is the progesterone is the actually natural hormone which will control all this the process. But however, the substituted derivatives of this ethinylated the progesterone, that is ethinyl estradiol, and as well as this ethinyl with oxidized form of this compound also norethindrione. These are the two drugs used for the anti-fertility drugs. And the seventh variety is the anti-acids. The acid is actually produced in the stomach in order to kill the bacteria and to hydrolyze some of the amide bonds and the glycosidic linkages and so on. This is a process of digestion. In the process of the digestion, the HCl is a one which is a crucially required one. But it sometimes the chemical substance called this is histamine, which will stimulate the HCl production. If sometimes this is more produced by the intestine, then consequently the more production of HCl will be produced. This HCl will start the hydrolyzing not only the one what you eat, but it also hydrolyzes or the decompose the mucous membrane and the intestine cell walls are affected. So this produces the ulcers and all that. So therefore the primary level of the that is the acids are taking the bicarbonates directly solution you can take, that's not good for the health actually. So therefore, a mixture of aluminum hydroxide and magnesium hydroxide in the form of a gelusil or so on, different types of the medicines tablets are available. They contain nothing but the metal hydroxides like aluminum and the magnesium hydroxides. They are basic, therefore they are neutralizing the HCl or salt formation takes place. So some of the HCl is converted into their corresponding the aluminum and the magnesium salts, thereby the acidity problem, burning sensation will be decreased. And there are some chemicals like cimetidine and ranitidine recently introduced with a slight modified form. They are under the name, trade name, that Tegamet and the Rantac and Gentac. They are controlling the histamines. They are called antihistamine drugs. The production of histamine will be controlled, or the proton pumping will be influenced. So thereby they control the acidity. It's not exactly the neutralizing. These chemicals are neutralizes the produced HCl, but there are some chemicals which will stop the histamine action, antihistamine. They block the histamine receptor sites, thereby the production or the pumping of the protons or the HCl production will be stopped. That control the hyperacidity or the acidity problems are controlled. So these two classes, that is anti-fertility and the anti-acids, also make two more classes of these medicines. Eighth type of the medicine, antihistamines. As we have seen, in histamine has got one function, that is a production of the HCl in the stomach, but the histamine is also creates certain substances which create some the rightness immediately, that is taking some special cares and all that, but that leads to give some allergic problem. For example, if the food is it's not good, spoiled food, when we take little, then we get the vomiting sensation, in fact, isn't it? But that is good for the health, because otherwise we go on continue to eat, isn't it? That is, when I take that spoiled food, immediately histamines are produced, and then we get some adverse remarks against this food. So we get this starting the vomiting sensation. But certain sensations, if instead of at a required time, if it is dosage is more, then it leads to give these allergic problems also. In such cases, some of the medicines which against they act against the histamines are known as what? Antihistamine. Actually, histamines are good for the body, but the histamines also produce some adverse effects, some cases when they are excess or when it is unwanted cases. If it is working, then we must stop the action of the histamines. In such cases, these antihistamines are used. They are called anti-allergic. That means the allergy leads to give the different chronic diseases like asthma and the skin diseases like psoriasis and so on. They are all just because of the symptoms of the histamine, later created, complicated and come out as a big disease. So that can be stopped at an elementary level using these antihistamine drugs. Specifically, there is a bromo derivative of pyridine called bromophenyramine, and similarly a triphenyl alcohol and the tertiary butyl containing the benzene derivative is called terfenadine and commonly known as celdane. Here also these compounds are called dimetop as well as dimetane. They are advised to act against the antihistamine. So these drugs, when we take this anti-allergic properties will be controlled. The chemicals can also be used in the food, that is eating what we eat food. Some chemicals are used there also in the form of two specific headings. One is a preservative, that is food for the longer time if you keep it aside, it gets spoiled. The spoilage is because of the the attacking of the microorganisms like bacteria and the other microorganisms. So, to prevent this food, we have some age old techniques like adding the excess of the salt and making the achar or the chutneys, some so and so, sugar, making the, we know that jam preparation and all that, adding the huge amount of the vegetable oil that stop the growth of the bacteria. And it is also identified the benzoic acid derivatives act as a agonist to the bacteria food. So, they start as a anti-metabolite. Metabolite means the food which take the bacteria. This sodium benzoic acid RA, which is similar to the para-aminobenzoic acid, that is metabolite or food material. Sodium benzoate acts as a anti-metabolite. So, the bacteria, the whole that metabolism will be stuck up and the bacteria will be killed in fact. So, the salts of sorbic acid, propanoic acid also inhibit the growth of the bacteria. Antioxidants, sometimes the food gets spoiled because of the oxidation. For example, vegetable oils undergo rancidification by exposure to the air. So, there will be some double bonds in the glycerides and so on, and there this double bond get oxidized to epoxides and some acids and aldehydes are produced by the oxidation. Such type of the oxidation can be stopped by adding some of the chemicals, specifically this butyl BHT is known as butyl hydroxytoluene. Butyl, that is butylated hydroxy anisole, these two are called BHT, BHA. When it is added to the oils, they preserve the food material. Citric acid sulfides also act as a food preservatives. And another class of chemicals which is added to the food is to increase the sweetness. Generally, to get the sweetness we use sucrose, that is sugar. But instead of the sucrose, recently the sucrose hydrolyzes to produce the glucose, and this infecting, that is inflating the that is levels of the glucose and adversely affect on the diabetic patients. So, instead of the sucrose, we can go for the chemicals which are not made up of the sucrose, that glucose at all. Saccharin is a benzoic acid with amide, benzamide containing a sulfonamide anhydride form. It contains 550 times sweeter than the ordinary the sugar. This is a aspartame. It is an aliphatic compound containing ester function, amide function, and amino and a carboxylic acid function. Aliphatic compound aspartame, which is also proved to be 100 times is an amino acid. It is not an alpha amino acid. Here it is alpha amino acid, but it is a beta amino acid in this case. So, it is a dipeptide linkage actually almost. Aspartame is acting as a 100 times sweeter than the sucrose. The sucralose, this is a derivative of the sucrose, is also proved to be 600 times stronger or the more powerful than the ordinary sucrose. Alletane, dulcin, they are also the artificial substance, chemical substances which have got sweet the taste. So, therefore, they can be replaced the ordinary sugar. So, we have some artificial the chemicals which are not sugar actually, but gives the taste of the sugar. Specifically, diabetic patients can be taken to this type of the substances, or if the substances are cheaper, they can be replaced in the preparation of sweets and so on. Or a few chemicals already, saccharin and so on, commercially we are using in the sweets preparation and so on. So, this is the third variety of the chemicals in the cleaning or cleansing agent. That is, there are some chemicals which are used for the washing of the cloths and the utensils and so on, washing the face and so on. There are three different types of the applications are there. The first is soaps, that is bathing or the washing soaps. They are nothing but the sodium or potassium salts of long chain carboxylic acid. There will be a number of carbons, around 15 to 30 carbons will be there. At the end there is a carboxylic acid that is ended with the sodium or potassium salts. So there will be a salt will be there, and this contains the basically the cleaning action. There will be some organic part and also there is a inorganic part, like for example this is ionic or the inorganic part. This is an organic part. Now when we have a, for example, a beaker containing some wax is there, okay, a beaker is wet with the wax. When you try with the washing the with water, water is an aqueous solution and this wax is organic. This organic is not soluble in the water. So several times if you wash with water also, you cannot clean the beaker, right? But whereas if you add some soap, the soap will contain an organic part as well as the inorganic or the ionic part. When you add the soap, this is water, so this part will enter into the water. There are two ends. The ionic end will go to the water, organic end, so many carbons are there. So this huge part acts as an organic part. This organic part enter into the wax and or the oil. Inorganic part enter into the water. So a molecule will be half goes into the oil or organic and half goes into the inorganic water. So therefore this molecule makes a junction between the two layers, and if you now shake it, the whole thing will become emulsion and then can be cleaned. That means the soaps are having the half of the compound is acting as an organic, half will have inorganic or the ionic polarizing part, non-polarizing parts are there. So therefore this makes the oil and water to dissolve, not exactly, but makes the emulsion, and thereby the cleaning takes place. That is the secret of the cleaning action actually. So therefore we have now the soaps are nothing but a long chain carboxylic acids ended with the sodium salts. Now this works as an organic part and COO-Na acts as an ionic part. So that works as a soap, and there can be sodium or potassium. It is also studied. Potassium salts are softer one and mostly used in the face washing soaps, whereas the sodium salts are used in the washing the different, that is the cloth washing or the hard soaps there. So the long chain of the acid can be a stearic acid or oleic acid, linolenic, palmitic and so on, different chains. And a carboxylic acid, for example, attached to the glycerol, a long chain carboxylic acid, through the esterification bond, a long chains are attached like this. All are esters, they are called triglycerides. If you hydrolyze this side, you will get glycerol, the other side 3 pieces of the long chain carboxylic acids. With the help of sodium hydroxide, if you hydrolyze, all these 3 will become into the soaps. That is called an oil on saponification. You will get soap from this side glycerol will be produced. So this RCOO-Na act as a soap. So soaps are nothing but the long chain carboxylic acids, sodium salts or potassium salts. They work as a cleaning agents. However, the second class is the detergents. There are again 3 types of the detergents are there. Detergents can be anionic part, that is a long chain ending with the anion. However, salt will be outside, cation will be there, but the main compound is ended with the anion. So this is nothing but the sodium or the lauryl sulfonic acid. Carboxylic acids have a disadvantage. When the water contains more quantity of the calcium, that is calcium ions, this sodium is replaced by the calcium salts of the carboxylic acid get precipitated. So that's why the soaps are not acting in the hard water. Hard water contains the calcium ions, whereas the sulfonic acids, they will react with the sodium, or even on replacement also they are highly soluble in the water. So therefore the detergents can work in the hard water also. So the detergents also long chain carboxylic acid, sulfonic acids, long chain, the sulfonic acids are the detergents. Instead of sulfonic acid, this is anion is there. Sometimes can be cation also can be there. A long chain ammonium salts with ammonium bromide is a cationic type. An example, cetyl trimethyl, this is cetyl, the trimethyl ammonium bromide is a cationic type of the detergent. It can be a anionic or cationic, sometimes no charge, no ion will be there. That can be produced by taking a long chain carboxylic acid and a polyethylene glycol. That is, two sides if OH is there for ethylene, that is called ethylene glycol, but a long chain of ethylene glycol may be added to this stearic acid to generate a ester function. Now, a stearic acid, a long chain poly, that is a ethylene glycol, when it is mixed, that comes out as a neutral compound, no charge on the detergent, but it works as a liquid dishwasher, that is dishwashing detergent can be prepared. So, there are three types of the detergents are there. Detergents can be ionic, that is basically they are ionic, but they are the anionic type and the cationic, these two are ionic type, and there is no ionic nature because the ester function, the carboxylic acid is linked to this alcoholic to generate a ester. So, now a long chain stearic acid is esterified with the a long chain glycolic compound, that is called another type of the detergent which is used in the dishwashing the purpose. So, the soaps and the detergents both are used in the cleaning the cloth, cleaning the vessels or cleaning the face. So, all these three things are the come under this cleansing agents. So, let us take some more vitamins. The seventh one is vitamin D, that is called technically calciferol. The source for the vitamin D is exposure to the sunlight. When sunlight falls on that, so pre-vitamin D converts into the vitamin D. Calciferol is the one which is technically called is a prepared, actually pre-vitamin will be there, but when sunlight falls the vitamin D is prepared, and it is available in the fish and the egg yolk and the cod liver oil and so on. It is oil soluble one, so therefore mostly in the oily material it will be available. The deficiency will be rickets. The deficiency leads to the deformation of the bone, so the bones will be go on bending and then it will become brittle also, the breakage that leads to the bone fractures and all that. The eighth one vitamin is vitamin E. It is called technically tocopherol, and the source for the vitamin E is vegetable oils and wheat germ oil. That is wheat, when you allow to germinate, when it is small the radical, and when root comes it is extracted from the wheat. In the germinating wheat, the wheat oil extracted which contain highly vitamin E, which is supposed to be controlling this antioxidizing, that is antioxidant. It is regeneration of the reproduction, that is reproduction activity is controlled by the vitamin E. The lastly we have a vitamin K, which is also called technically phylloquinone. Its source for the vitamin E is vegetable oils and green vegetables. The disease or the deficiency of the vitamin E leads to the hemorrhage. The hemorrhage is nothing but the in different parts of the body. If the blood is the non-clotting, so continuously coming out, and the leakage of the blood in different places, like in the brain hemorrhage or the different muscle hemorrhage and so on, like that. If the blood is having the enough platelets and all that, the blood clotting, the phenomena will be perfect. Otherwise, the continuous blood oozing in different parts leads to give this hemorrhages, that is called the blood clotting, or the problem of the hemorrhage comes. That's controlled by the vitamin K. So, under the biomolecules we have a small topic called vitamins. Vitamins are a section of organic compounds. They are required to promote the biological catabolism, anabolism and so on, all the metabolism, but they required in a very small quantities. They are essential, but the quantity required is very small quantity. Okay? And these are classified into the two varieties of sections. So, vitamins are which are soluble in the oil or fat, they come under the first category. Vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E and K come under this category, whereas the second category is water soluble. They are water soluble, so therefore their second category is vitamin B and vitamin C. However, vitamin B has got a complex vitamin B, vitamin B1, vitamin B12 up to B12 we have a different numbers are there. They are subcategorized into B1, B2, B3, B6 and so on. So, all the vitamin B complex and as well as vitamin C are water soluble. So, they are divided into mainly into the two sections, water not soluble, water soluble also you can take, or oil soluble and water soluble, right. Because they are prescribed when you take these vitamins, they are with food we have to take, because in the food there are lot of oils will be there. With oil they are soluble and they will be absorbed. So, the absorption mode of absorption is different. So, therefore, specifically they are classified into oil soluble and the water soluble. So, we have, let us take in the form of a chart. The first one vitamin is vitamin A, known as retinol. Vitamin A is retinol, and the source where we get is from the fish liver or cod liver oil. Carrots and buttermilk are the main source for the vitamin A. Fruits like mango, that is papaya, all these fruits also rich with the vitamin A. And the deficiency of the vitamin A leads to the blindness, specifically the night blindness, xerophthalmia. That means the cornea will become hard and the seeing ability will be slowly decreases. That is the disease we get when vitamin A is deficiency. That is why it is advised to take the carrots, plenty of carrots. In this we have one chemical called carotene that becomes into two parts, and which is nothing but a vitamin A, A1 and A2. Retinol is a chemical which is from directly from that carotene, a pigment which red colored or pink colored pigment, which is on cutting into two halves we get the retinol. So, the second vitamin is thiamine. This is called B1 vitamin. The source for the vitamin is yeast, milk and vegetables and cereals, that is smaller, that wheat and jowar and all that small cereals will have a rich in the B1. The deficiency leads to the beriberi, that is the digestion problem and the growth problem will be there, growth inhibition. Specifically, malnutrition leads to this type of the disease. Actually, that is because of the B1 vitamin deficiency. Vitamin B2 is the third one. It is known as riboflavin. It is also available in the milk, egg and egg white, specifically liver and the kidney, that is non-veg products will contain the B2, and this leads to the chelosis, fissuring of the mouth lips at the edges of the mouth. We get this breakage of this and getting the oozing the blood, skin, and all these problems are due to this vitamin B2. The fourth one, vitamin B6, is known as pyridoxine, available in the egg yolk, milk and so on, almost same variety. The result of this absence or the deficiency leads to the convulsions, that is a fits type of the disease, leading to the central nervous system influencing convulsions will come. And then the fifth one is vitamin B12. This is called cyanocobalamin. Cobalt will be there in the center of that a complex with Vitamin B12 contains a cobalt, CO, as a central metal ion, and complicated that porphyrin rings will be there, and that is available in the again in the egg, milk and non-veg materials, as well as the cereals and all that, and that leads to give the anemia, that is the blood deficiency. Specifically, you can say RBC cells in the blood, red blood cells will be deficient, which leads to the functioning of the oxygen carrying, that leads to the anemic or the weakness of the body, and that leads to slowly the patient will become very weak and so on. And then the last one, sixth one, is vitamin C, that is ascorbic acid. Technically it is called. All the citrus fruits like lemon, oranges will contain plenty of the vitamin C. Fresh vegetables and the fruits, all fruits will contain this vitamin C. The vitamin C deficiency, the disease name is called scurvy. The bleeding of the gums, the scurvy leads to that is the implantation of the teeth is not perfect, and that bleeding of the gums leads to the disease known as scurvy it is. In continuation of this one, we will see some more vitamins. So, in the biomolecules, we have a small unit called nucleic acids. Nucleic acids are nothing but the polynucleotides, just like we have a polymers, polyvinyl chloride. Vinyl chloride many times will give a polyvinyl chloride. Here we have a nucleotide which is repetitively joining and will be a very long chain, that is called a nucleic acid. What is that nucleotide means? Nucleotide will contain basically 3 units. One is this PO4 unit called phosphate unit. One is a carbohydrate which is a 5-membered 5 carbon one, that is a pentose. It is a specifically either a ribose or a 2-oxyribose will be there. This is a 5-membered 5 carbon carbohydrate, that is a sugar unit, and there will be some organic unit will be there, that is a base. So, these 3 units will be repetitively increasing to get a long chain, that is called a nucleic acid. And the linkage pattern you observe here, this is called a phosphate unit. Phosphate is linked to this sugar unit. The sugar is in between the base and the phosphate, but again next this is called nucleotide. Only sugar and base, you too have a name called nucleoside. When you nucleoside, if you hydrolyze, you will get sugar and a base, that is all. When you nucleotide, if you hydrolyze, a phosphate and a sugar and a base, these 3 units will come. Okay? There is no name for only phosphate and the sugar, that is called ADP, ATP and so on. But sugar and base together is called nucleoside. All 3 together is called a nucleotide. This nucleotide on repetitively n number of times. A phosphate, a sugar and a base n number of times will become a long chain, that is called a nucleic acid. Now, the nucleic acids are, there are 2 nucleic acids side by side will be there. This one chain is called one nucleic acid. There is another chain side by side, this is called another nucleic acid. These 2 nucleic acids will be that is in fact spiraled. This is called double helix structure given by this James Watson and the Crick. The structure of the nucleic acid was revealed by this Watson and Crick. They won a Nobel Prize. Later this Harigobind Khurana, he identified this DNA is responsible to carry on the information from one generation to the another generation, that is called genetic code. In fact, the functions of DNA, RNA is very clearly said. The DNA is responsible to replicate, to produce the RNA and the DNA. There are 2 nucleic acids are there, DNA and RNA. DNA is responsible for the replication, that means reproduction of the further DNA as well as RNA, and it preserves the genetic code, that is genetic information is given in the form of the codes, and the codes are giving the information. RNA is also a small piece of a long chain of nucleic acid, and that is controlling the protein synthesis, that is proteins will contain a set number of amino acids in a specific sequence. The sequence is now controlled by this RNA. So, the RNA will be participating in the protein synthesis. I once again give in the bases, the sugar will be obviously only one sugar, that is ribose. If at second carbon, if you have a hydroxy, that is called ribose. At second carbon, if both are hydrogen, that is called 2-deoxyribose will be there in the DNA. Ribose will be there in the RNA. So, the major difference between the DNA and RNA is first difference in the sugar. In the sugar ribose, at second carbon OH will be there in the RNA. At second carbon, instead of the OH directly H will be there, that oxygen is missing. So, the DNA is called deoxyribonucleic acid. Ribonucleic acid, ribose containing is RNA, that is the first difference. Another difference is, in the DNA, there are two types of the bases are there. Bases are divided into purines and pyrimidines. In the purine, adenine and the guanine, two bases will be there. In the pyrimidine, cytosine and thymine is there. So, in the RNA, instead of thymine, uracil will be there. That is the second difference. Otherwise, when these two strings are attached through the hydrogen bonding, the hydrogen bondings will be always, a guanine will make 3 hydrogen bondings with the cytosine. The guanine and the adenine belongs to purines. Guanine and the adenine belongs to the purines. So, one purine will be always making hydrogen bonding with the one pyrimidine. Specifically, G, that is the guanine, always makes hydrogen bonding with the cytosine only. So, here if there is a guanine, this will be the C. Always G will make with a compound that is hydrogen bonded with the cytosine. Adenine will make a double bond, not with the 3 bonds. It is not pi bonds, it is hydrogen bonds. Adenine make 2 hydrogen bonds with the thymine. In the RNA, instead of thymine, uracil will be there. Always number of guanines will be equal to the number of cytosine, because all guanines are clubbed with this the cytosine. So, always the ratio of G by C will be 1 always. In the DNA, A by T will be 1. In the RNA, A by U will be also 1. The ratio between the adenine and uracil will be 1. Thionine will not be there in the RNA. So, that is the major difference. It is nothing but a polymer of this 3 repetitive 3 units. Basically, there will be one phosphate, one sugar unit, one base unit will be there. Base is linked to the sugar, phosphate is linked to the sugar. This sugar will have this is the first carbon, second carbon, third carbon, fourth carbon, fifth carbon. So, the linkage is between the third carbon and the fifth carbon. The 3 and 5 of the sugar is involved to the phosphate and the next phosphate. So, at third carbon we have this phosphate linked to the fifth carbon of the next sugar, and so on, 3-5 linkage. And at first carbon we have a base. So, at first carbon we have a base, at third carbon we have a phosphate, and fifth carbon another phosphate. This phosphate is linked to the next nucleotide. So, a polymer of the polynucleotide is nothing but the nucleic acid.